Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we review books of every genre, and today we're doing a murder mystery. This is a novel murder by Elizabeth Penney. The first in the series is called Secrets on the Castleton Manor Library. And there's a whole bunch of them. Don't know how many, but there's a whole bunch. Okay, so murder mystery. It's fairly short. Quick read, about 200 pages, a little bit more than that, but a relatively quick read. And so our plot. Our main character arrives at a manor house that has a fantastic library. First editions, and apparently it needs a librarian. So she's a librarian. She's been hired to curate the collection and take care of some of the first editions and things like that. And she is there and discovers really quick in the book, like we're talking in the first 20 pages, both that one of the first editions is a fake and her predecessor, the previous librarian, has been killed, or at least is dead. She finds the body in a secret passage. And so the mystery then proceeds. What happened to both the book and the previous librarian? And we go along finding clues, so to speak, and solving the mystery. Okay, so that's the plot. Pretty basic setup for a murder mystery, which I can't give you many details because otherwise I'd be spoiling things. Things I like about the book. So first would be the imagery, the setting. The setting is lush and really the kind of place that I personally would love to go visit or love to live at. She has a cute, cozy cottage that is the gardener's cottage of the manor. The manor is huge and sprawling and, like 18 bedrooms or something like that. And obviously a fantastic library, which I would love to see. And it has, the decorations that they're talking about, like one of the bedrooms is the Agatha Christie room, and it's decorated like a train car with chrome and woodwork and Tiffany glass lamps, and it just sounds really beautiful, the kind of place you would love to be at. Beyond that, the setting also includes what's happening going on. So in the background, when she arrives there, they are having a conference, I guess you could say, of Sherlock Holmes fans. So it's a Sherlock convention. And so you have all these people doing things that sound like a lot of fun. Like they have lectures of how do people use the techniques in the Sherlock Holmes books in real life. And then all the guests get together in the evening and have a murder mystery game where one of the guests is murdered, and they go out and try and solve the clues. And they have dress up where people are dressing up like Sherlock Holmes, or just all sorts of things like that. I mean, it just sounds like a lot of fun, honestly. The description in there is like, wow, I want to go join them, I want to be part of that. That just sounds great. And the castle has secret passages, and it just sounds like a really great, I want to be there. So the setting is fantastic. And that's really, I'm going to say, all I really liked strongly about this book was really the setting. So then we get to things I dislike. So let's talk about several different things. One of which is this book our main character has a cat. You can kind of see it right there. Cat on the main character cover. Anyway, so the cat is the one that uncovers most of the clues. And, kind of, I guess accidentally, you don't get the impression the cat is doing it on purpose, but the author decides to interject in her small little book several paragraphs from the cat's point of view. We're talking like 3 paragraphs about this big in a chapter, cat point of view. And personally, I found it kind of irritating, and it takes you out of the story because everything else in the book feels very real. And then you have this cat thinking like a human, and I didn't like it at all. I did not like that at all. If this book had been an entire murder mystery from the point of view of the cat, okay, fine. I would have totally been behind that. But just the occasional cat perspective was jarring. I didn't like it. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens enough that to me, I'd be like, cut it all out. You would not have lost anything in the story. It would have actually made it better. So I did not like the cat point of view. Because it is a short novel, there's a little bit of rushing, at least at the beginning. You don't have any real build up to discovering the body. Like, you don't know any of the suspects. You get to know the main character okay. You know why she's there and what she's like, at least a little bit, shallowly. And then very briefly meet a couple of characters, and then there's the body. And that would be okay if you spent more time on the rest of the book getting to know the characters, but you really don't. A lot of the characters you have very, very brief, very shallow introductions. Like, there were several of the characters that I was like, who is that character again? Oh, that was the vet. Oh, okay. Who was that character again? Oh, that was a guest. So the author does remind you on most characters, but you have this snapshot. This is the lady dressed as Sherlock Holmes. And that's all you know about her. You don't have any background, motive, whatever, anything. She's just there. And same thing with a lot of other characters. The author goes into a little bit more depth on some of the characters that you assume are going to be around in subsequent books. Like, our main character has an aunt in town that she likes to go and vent at. And she has a boss, and the boss's boss, who looks like it's going to be a love interest. And that's, it's not a love interest in this book. They don't get anywhere or do anything, but it's set up to probably be in subsequent books. Although maybe that was a little bit of a spoiler since it tells you that he's not the murderer. But in any case, you don't get a lot of depth of character development in this book. It just doesn't have room for it. The author doesn't prioritize it, so you don't have it. Okay, the main thing I disliked about this book would be our main character's choices in this. So she finds a book that is supposed to be a first edition Sherlock Holmes book, and it is not. It is a fake, and she is sure it's a fake. So she is a new hire. She discovers this the first day on the job. So what does she do? She tells nobody, except her aunt later. But the problem with that is that's not realistic. Like, first day on the job, like if you were, a curator at a museum or something like that, and you're walking along and you really know the art, and you see one painting on the wall and you go, I think that's a fake. Wouldn't you then go and tell your boss, tell a coworker, tell the police, tell somebody? And she doesn't do that, and she repeatedly doesn't do this. She has plenty of opportunities to tell a lot of people that would make sense to tell, and she never does. Never. It's especially stupid when you consider the fact that she ends up being at least potentially a murder suspect. There's some circumstantial evidence that point to her as having either motivation, although it's pretty wimpy motivation, or opportunity, although again it's pretty wimpy opportunity, circumstantial evidence that maybe she was the killer of her predecessor. And so the police question her. Okay, the fake book should be a clue, right? A librarian is murdered, the fake book is there. It never crosses her mind that maybe she should tell the police about this fake book, that maybe this is a motive for a murder. She does occasionally consider it as being a motive for the murder, but not to the extent of, maybe I should tell the police. Maybe I should say something to my boss who would really care to know that his wonderful book is actually a fake. I mean, it's so stupid. It's so stupid that she never does anything like that. She never tells anybody. She just keeps it to herself. And I can excuse that if she gave a reason. If she was like, no, I can't tell anybody because it would implicate me. But that doesn't happen in this book. The only excuses she seemed to give are, I want to wait on that a little bit longer. I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm not sure that I want to do that at this time. That kind of motivation. There's no explanation for this. She's just being an idiot for no reason at all. And that really, really irritates me. I hate it when characters are doing things in books that you're like, that is so idiotic. Why are you doing that? And then the author doesn't bother giving you a good explanation. So that highly irritated me in this book. A second thing on this that I didn't like, or I guess another thing, it's probably more than one, is that our author does too much telling instead of showing. An example of that is one of the potential suspects comes along, and our main character looks at him and says, obviously he was very upset that she died. And you sit there, and I was looking at the going, obviously? There was nothing written in the book that showed he was upset. He talked about her normally. He was standing correctly. He had no emotion described in either his face, his tone of voice, anything. He was obviously upset. But the only way you knew that he was obviously upset is because the author says he's obviously upset. That's horrible writing. Okay, you should show that he's upset. You know, maybe he's, I don't know, hesitant to talk, or he's getting sniffly. I don't care what you want to say. You know, he's rubbing his hands. Something that emotes, and the author doesn't bother to do that. It just tells you he's obviously upset. So this is an example. It does it a couple times, but that kind of thing that just, it irritates me. It feels like bad writing. So, my overall think on this, I should talk about the mystery too. So there really isn't much in the way of solving a mystery. So the cat finds a couple of clues that maybe are clues, maybe they aren't, maybe they're red herrings, whatever. But she doesn't do any real detective work. There are not a lot of clues that come up to point to much of anything, very little. The mystery was the kind of thing where somebody is confused about what's going on until it's shoved in their face an answer to something, that kind of feel to it. And I don't say I would consider that a great mystery novel. The author does sprinkle some clues in, but it's mostly like this person is acting suspicious, not really here's a clue that would lead you to something. Because lots of characters can act suspicious. That doesn't really mean anything, right? Anyway, so I didn't love the mystery part either. So my overall impression of this book is honestly negative. I would say this is a disappointment. I was not impressed with this book at all. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, really. It was a cozy mystery, but I don't know. I felt like the writing was so bad because of the stupidity of our main character that I loathe stupid main characters. So that's gonna give it a huge negative vote for me. Oh well, we tried. So that is our mystery novel. Our next book is going to be The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Haig? Something like that. So this is a standalone. It's a New York Times bestseller, Good Morning America book club book, which generally speaking means it's fairly well written. It kind of falls in the science fiction or fantasy category because it has something to do with either alternate universes or time travel, and that can kind of waver whether it's fantasy or science fiction depending on how the author treats it. And we'll see how that goes. So that'll be our next book, and thank you for watching.